There's something about hospitals after midnight. During the day, they're noisy. Doctors walking between rooms. Visitors talking. Trolleys moving through corridors. Phones ringing. But at night, everything changes. The fluorescent lights suddenly seem a little too white. A squeaking wheel somewhere down the hallway sounds closer than it should. And footsteps, even ordinary footsteps, can make you wonder who's walking around when everyone else is supposed to be asleep. Now imagine you're inside a hospital with nearly a century of history. A hospital built inside an old British military complex, surrounded by places connected to war, prisoners, and death. And at around 2 a.m, you hear boots coming up the staircase, slowly. One step after another, except when you look into the stairwell. The man standing there isn't wearing anything from your time. Tonight, we're going to Singapore, to a building that has become one of the country's most infamous paranormal landmarks. Old Changi Hospital. Welcome to the podcast, You Can't Unhear. Before we get into the stories, we need to separate something important. Because Old Changi Hospital has accumulated so many legends that sometimes the legend gets mistaken for the history. The Changi Hospital story stretches back to the British military presence in eastern Singapore. Official heritage records show that buildings in the complex date to the 1930s, when Britain was developing Changi as an important military area. The hospital's own institutional history dates its origins to 1935, with the Royal Air Force Hospital eventually operating there. Then came February 1942. Singapore fell to Japanese forces. Changi became heavily associated with Allied prisoners of war, disease, overcrowding, and death. Hospital facilities were reorganised around the Changi military complex to cope with enormous numbers of sick prisoners. Dysentery became particularly devastating. And this is where history and folklore begin bleeding into each other. You've probably heard that Old Changi Hospital itself became a torture chamber operated by the Kempeitai, the feared Japanese military police. It's repeated everywhere. Ghost websites, travel articles, paranormal videos. But historians have challenged it. Independent Singapore heritage researcher Jerome Lim has said the famous story that the hospital building itself was a Kempeitai torture facility has very little historical support. What is real is the brutality of the Japanese occupation, the suffering connected with the wider Changi area, and the enormous wartime trauma Singapore endured. And sometimes, that's all a place needs for stories to begin. After the occupation ended, the buildings returned to medical use. Over the following decades, the hospital changed names and administrations. RAF Hospital, ANZ UK Hospital, UK Military Hospital, Singapore Armed Forces Hospital, and finally, Changi Hospital. By 1976, it had come under Singapore's Ministry of Health and served the public with general medicine, surgery, dental services, and a 24-hour emergency department. People gave birth there. People recovered there. People died there. Doctors worked long shifts. Nurses walked those corridors at 3 a.m. And somewhere along the way, stories began attaching themselves to the building. Figures in old uniforms. Shadowy people appearing near windows. Disembodied voices. Footsteps. A nurse carrying a child. And a little boy who simply sits and watches. According to one version of the legend, a patient was staying in the hospital in the late 1980s. His bed was close to the ward entrance, giving him a view toward the corridor and stairwell. The first night, nothing happened. But on the second, he woke sometime around 2 in the morning. Not because somebody touched him, not because somebody shouted. He simply woke up. Then he heard it. Footsteps, heavy, measured. Not the soft rubber soles of nurses moving between patients. These sounded like boots. The footsteps climbed, reached his floor, and stopped. He waited. Nobody appeared. Then, the footsteps slowly moved away. The next morning, he supposedly asked whether security guards patrolled the upper floors. He was told they normally remained downstairs unless someone called them. Maybe that was enough to make an ordinary nighttime sound feel sinister. Maybe someone really had walked past. But the following night, something else happened. 3 sharp knocks, close to his bed. He opened his curtain. Everyone appeared asleep. Then he noticed the stairwell door. It wasn't completely closed. He walked toward it and pushed. On the landing below stood a man, facing away, hands behind his back, wearing what appeared to be an old military uniform. The patient froze. The man didn't move. Then, slowly, his head turned. His face appeared grey, his eyes hollow, and he whispered something the patient couldn't understand. Then he took 1 step upward. The patient backed away. Another step, and another. The patient ran. He returned to his ward and refused to go near that staircase again. The second legend is quieter. At first, a young nurse, we'll call her Mei Lin, was supposedly working nights at Changi Hospital. She didn't believe the stories. Hospitals make noises. Patients hallucinate. People hear things when they're tired. Then, one night, she heard crying. A woman. Somewhere far down the corridor. Mei Lin checked her patients. Nothing. The crying returned. This time, she followed it. It seemed to lead toward an older section of the building, away from the main ward. The farther she walked, the quieter everything became, until eventually, the crying stopped. Mei Lin called out.
Hello?
Nothing. And then, the crying started again. Behind her, she turned. Empty corridor. Then the temperature seemed to change. And underneath a light at the opposite end, there was someone standing there. A woman, wearing an older-style nurse's uniform. White dress, high collar, nurse's cap. Her shoulders were moving, as though she was crying. Mei Lin supposedly asked, "Can I help you?" The woman lifted her head and began moving toward her. Except her feet weren't moving. They weren't even touching the floor. Mei Lin ran. Behind her, the crying became louder. Then other voices seemed to join it, coming from rooms, behind doors, from everywhere around her. She reached the nurse's station, and suddenly, silence. When she told an older nurse what she'd seen, the response wasn't disbelief. It was recognition. Old Changi Hospital's ghost lore has indeed included apparitions in medical uniforms, including stories of nurses and even a nurse carrying a baby. But of all the figures associated with Old Changi, one of the strangest is a child. Reports and folklore surrounding the building have included sightings of a young boy, sometimes sitting silently, sometimes simply watching. One story tells of an 8-year-old boy, we'll call him Andrew, visiting his grandmother. His parents were speaking with doctors. Andrew was supposed to stay nearby. Instead, he wandered. At the end of a corridor, he noticed another child. Barefoot, dark hair, hospital gown hanging loosely around his body. Hi? No answer. The boy turned and walked away. Andrew followed. Every time Andrew got closer, the boy seemed to remain exactly the same distance ahead. Then he stopped beside an empty room. He pointed inside. Andrew looked. Nothing. No patient, no bed, just an empty room. Then the child walked into the corner, sat down, and began rocking. Back and forth. Andrew became frightened. He stepped into the corridor, but suddenly, the hallway didn't feel familiar anymore. He couldn't remember which direction he'd come from, so he went back into the room. The boy was gone. Then Andrew turned around. He was standing directly behind him, closer than before. The child raised one hand and pointed toward a stairwell. Andrew refused. "I need to go back." The boy moved closer. Andrew said the room became freezing. His chest tightened. He couldn't breathe. And then, everything went black. When he opened his eyes, his mother was calling his name. Doctors reportedly believed he'd fainted. Andrew couldn't properly explain where he'd gone. And eventually, the memory faded. Until years later, when he heard people discussing Old Changi Hospital, and somebody mentioned the little boy. In 1997, Changi Hospital finally ceased operation. Its services were transferred when Changi Hospital and Toa Payoh Hospital merged into the new hospital system at Simei. The old buildings remained. Empty wards, empty staircases, empty rooms. And once the patients and nurses disappeared, the ghost stories exploded. Urban explorers began entering. Paranormal investigators came searching. People reported shadows, voices, figures watching from windows. Old Changi Hospital eventually became so synonymous with Singaporean horror that it inspired television stories and the 2010 found footage movie Haunted Changi. Today, the former hospital is recognised as part of Changi's heritage landscape. Singapore's National Heritage Board notes both its long military medical history and the paranormal reputation it developed after closing. But there has never been an official investigation proving ghosts exist inside Old Changi Hospital. And some of the darkest pieces of its supposed history, particularly the famous torture chamber story, may have grown larger with every retelling. Which leaves us with something almost more interesting. Because maybe Old Changi Hospital isn't frightening because we know exactly what happened there. Maybe it's frightening because we don't. Sleep tight tonight, guys. It's been a while since we do horror stories. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I'll see you on the next episode of the podcast You Can't Unhear.